The first wave of NFL free agency is over, but your Denver Broncos just get hit with a wave of great news when it comes to our managing of the salary cap. We get a little bit of a controversy around Tufunga, and is he going to be a flame out or a success in Denver? A little bit of controversy around the signing of Evan Engram. Was he actually our first choice? We got to dive into all of that and way more in this video. I'm Ben. I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan, and it really does help me and the algorithm out a lot if you would smash that like and subscribe button as hard as you wanted to hit the person at work who kept nagging you because you weren't wearing green on St. Patty's Day. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't have any green. I have orange and blue, and that's it. So stop bugging me. Come on. What a weird thing. So big piece of first news that dropped here is that Derek Stingley, the cornerback out of Houston, who played pretty decent throughout the playoffs. I'm not going to lie. He is a decent corner. He is not even in the conversation with a Patrick Surtain, and yet he was thrown the bag today, absolutely resetting the cornerback market. He was thrown $90 million deal, $30 million per year. He is easily, by far and away, the highest paid cornerback in football. And this is just fantastic news for your Denver Broncos because we are just looking here that we actually have the best corner in football, and he makes $6 million less a year than your dude does. And so amazing navigating of the salary cap. This is on a kudos to George Payton and this ownership group for taking care of players early, because if you are locked in and you know you're making a good decision, it pays massive dividends. And so that $6 million in savings can be used to, like, hey, let's now reset the market now with a Bonito or with a Cortland Sutton, or do that same thing with a Zach Allen. I think this is just fantastic navigating of the salary cap and shows what happens when you're a smart team. Look at how much trouble the Dallas Cowboys are in because they keep kicking the can down the road, thinking that, oh, the salary cap's going to go down and I won't have to pay these dudes. This is just absolutely wild now to take a look here at these recent deals and just see that we now, the other reason this is a fantastic deal is the next corner who's going to get mega money is a team who can't give out mega money, and they're really salty about it because Trent McDuffie, the pretty good corner for the Kansas City Chiefs, although Cortland Sutton toasts him and just feeds him his lunch and just holds him and rocks him to sleep at night. But Trent McDuffie is next up for a deal, and so you're actually seeing a lot of people inside of Chiefs Kingdom, I guess, saying stuff like, oh, man, we're in trouble. Why didn't we sign him earlier? So you see him using an expletive and then like dropping his GM's name here because they didn't do a deal early with Trent McDuffie. They're going to be in trouble. And it's just love this tweet here by Sarah Bettinger that you take a look here that Stingley's making more, J.C. Horn is making more, and you got Pat Surtain right here, the actual best corner in football, making $6 million per year less than the top paid and $1 million per less than J.C. Horn out of the Panthers. The NFL voters, the AP, all showed you who's the best corner in football. The fact that we're getting him for $6 million a year less is absolute highway robbery, and I'm so thrilled about that. Very, very, very exciting to have that type of situation, and it's just one of the benefits of having a competent ownership group who knows where they're going and is all rowing their boat in the same direction. Now, a couple weird things also showing up all over Twitter as well, and one of these is an article from Sports Illustrated that thinks that we really reached on signing Tufunga. They are not whatsoever confident in his ability to stay healthy, and I think this is a great example of somebody using ChatGPT to write articles for them rather than actually diving into it. And so this article really is talking about the some of the injuries there and calling him injury prone, but his injuries were not related to each other whatsoever. So you look at a concussion that he had because he's a heat-seeking missile after he came back after that knee injury and a wrist injury, but that is very different than we saw with Greg Dulcich, where his injuries were all related to one another and he never fully got back from that. So I think the gamble that we make here and knowing that our training staff under Bo Landry has completely changed how we approach recovery and how we approach even preparing for the season. We hit in training camp. We actually play preseason games so that we are prepared. And under Sean Payton and this training staff of Bo Lowry, we were one of the least injured teams in football. The fact that Tufunga was evaluated by our guys and given the all clear, I'm way, way confident that that was a fantastic move. But even if he does not stay completely healthy or has to miss games, we still do have PJ Locke, and we saw he was a starter last year and is an adequate replacement for a couple stints there for Tufunga. We made it to the playoffs and were basically tied with Buffalo at halftime with him as a starter last year. So as a backup, I think we're fine there. And in addition to that, Tufunga is not just a great step up from what we had. He's also a magnet to getting what I think is the steal of NFL free agency, which is Dre Greenlaw. So Dre Greenlaw had a very similar deal on the table with the San Francisco 49ers and chose to come to the Denver Broncos. And part of his reason for choosing the Broncos was that Tufunga is one of his best friends. And so this is just incredible here to just read this story here that the big reason that we were able to get Greenlaw, even though we had the same deal on the table, was because he wanted to be with his locker mate, with one of his really good friends, Tufunga. So even if Tufunga does get hurt and miss games, we have a good replacement. And by getting him, we were able to get Dre Greenlaw. So in my book, it is an absolute A, and you're actually seeing more people give us A grades on NFL free agency than any other grade. So I think most people are in lockstep agreement there. Another controversy kind of brewing is that you heard the tight end from the New Orleans Saints, Juwan Johnson, came out and said that the Broncos and the Seahawks actually were pursuing him heavily, but he chose to stay with the New Orleans Saints because of a conversation he had with Kellen Moore. So that has a lot of people in Broncos country like, wait, was Juwan Johnson actually our first pick? And I don't think that is the case. I think Sean Payton and George Payton are so good at what they are doing that they make every single person they're talking to feel like the most important person in the room. So Juwan Johnson may have very well thought like, hey, I'm option one. That's how you know Sean Payton and George Payton do a great job. They roll out the red carpet and make you want to feel that way. So that you'll choose that. But to me, I think Juwan Johnson actually was the insurance policy if we weren't able to convince Evan Engram to come here. And the fact that Respect My Co's on Twitter pointed this out, we actually had Evan Engram in the building because remember, he was cut. He wasn't one of the people we had to wait until the tampering period opened up. He actually came to Denver the night before free agency started, went out to Shanahan's with the guys, was in the building the entire next day, and then we began to talk to Juwan Johnson. So, Juwan Johnson, you can convince yourself that you were the prettiest girl and everyone wanted to bring you to homecoming, but really, you were option B for us. I definitely think that it is Evan Engram was our choice right away, and the more and more you watch him, Juwan Johnson doesn't do things like this where he's got a corner and he runs a route as crisp and clean there. I mean, he's got nobody on him, has jukes for days. We know that it was just 2 years ago that he broke an NFL record and had 114 receptions in 1 year. That's our tight end's production in 2 years, and he did that in 1 year. And he's played with quarterbacks like Herbert or Trevor Lawrence and with some pretty bad quarterback play in New York. So I feel like we're going to feast with him, and that is going to be a decision we made that ages better than fine wine. Like we see here, he's going to feed families. Cool to see that he's rocking number 1. I like how that looks, and I think it's the first tight end I can ever remember wearing number 1. Let me know in the comments if you can think of a tight end who's worn number 1. I think that's going to look super clean out there. Other great news that we see out here, we have to play the Bengals this year, and I love the fact that the Bengals are paying more for 3 players on offense than most teams pay for their offense in general, and this kind of approach that they are taking to throw all their money on one side of the ball, we know that is not going to work out for them. We know defense wins championships, and you can't win a championship on defense alone. You need the offense to kind of step up, but I love the fact that the bulk of our fantastic moves this offseason were on defense, and our defense was already the strength of this team, and we went out and got Bo adequate playmaker there in Evan Engram, but the Bengals are giving massive money. You have the highest non-paid quarterback there in Jamar Chase. Joe Burrow is already one of the highest paid quarterbacks, and then you gave T. Higgins also the bag, so you were looking at 45% of their cap is on just those 3 players. So this is fantastic because not only do we have to play them next year, they're not going to have a great defense because they can't afford it, and you are hitching a lot here on players who can easily get injured. We've seen Higgins miss meaningful time because of injuries. We've seen Joe Burrow with wrist injuries. And so the chances of this team making the playoffs, I think, dropped considerably when you are giving out this type of money on just those 3 players. We got more draft news and all that kind of stuff we got to break down, but the last thing I want to go through here is it was really cool this weekend to see Bo Nix, a man of the people. He's a true Denver fan, and this is really, really cool to see him courtside at a Nuggets game and then ringside or ice side. What do you say? I only watch hockey like a couple games. It moves too fast. I can't even follow the puck.
What's up, everyone?
But seeing him and Cortland Sutton and Garagullo and Frank Crum out on courtside there, awesome to see him rocking that number 10, and it just hits so different. We know Russell Wilson did this and Nathaniel Hackett did this, but they did it before they had actually proven they were any good, and they did it kind of as a preemptive victory tour where Bo Nix like ingrained himself and studied the film and earned the job and earned the captainship and all of that, and now he's the mayor of Denver in my mind. But I love the order that he did this, that he didn't just skip to courtside and ringside, that he went through the process and did it correctly, and just super stoked to see all that. Broncos country, we have a corner for $6 million less. That's amazing. We got a ton to. Bo, leave in.